Welcome back to Cheyenne Today on 97.5 FM, 1240 AM, KFBC. I'm JD Harris. We are happy to welcome into the studio this morning Tom Ritter from the Cheyenne Amateur Radio Club. Tom's been on the air with us a couple of times before, dealing with things with the Cheyenne Amateur Radio Club, and we're going to talk about Field Day, which is coming up this weekend. How's it going, Tom?
Pretty good, JD. Thanks for having me down.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on the air with us. Field Day is in the ham world is a big day. It's a lot of fun, and it's going to be coming up this weekend. It's 24 hours of radio contacts all over the country. Kind of explain what Field Day is to people who may not know.
Right. Well, Field Day is an annual event that is held in the amateur radio community, sponsored by the American Radio Relay League, which is our flagship organization out of the East Coast. And they sponsor this sort of competition, but more it's more like an emergency communication setup where we go out in the field, we take radios out, we set up portable operations with generators and batteries and radios, and put up our antennas, and we simulate emergency communications as we would if a situation came up, that required us to deploy.
Sure.
So that's kind of what the main thrust of Field Day is. There's a fun side to it that we can talk to other Field Day operations all over the country. There's going to be probably, I would say, thousands of different clubs across the country that are going to be out in the field set up. So we can contact those clubs, and we get certain points for making so many contacts. But it's basically just to demonstrate the emergency communication capability that we have if we were called out or needed.
Right. And I think that's something that people don't realize, that ham radio clubs, they're a lot of fun, and you get to learn about electronics, and you get to hang out with the guys and gals and that sort of thing. But it is in a disaster preparedness in this situation and exercise, but everybody's there. Main purpose is disaster preparedness.
Right. And we focus on that. What would happen if the commercial power went out and we had to go to generator power or use battery power? We demonstrate that capability as well. Charge the batteries up on generator, deploy the antennas.
Sure.
Show how we can get out in the bare field like we're going to be this weekend. There's not going to be any trees around, so we're just going to be in an open field, and we're going to be setting up antennas, and that's how we would do it in an emergency. So I mean, basically that's the thrust.
Sure. Now, we should let people know that it starts on the 24th at what time did you say?
The 24th at noon.
Okay.
It's going to be this Saturday at noon. We're going to be set up, and it runs 24 hours, so until noon Sunday.
Right.
And that's going to be out at the Archer Complex, at Laramie County Emergency Management building out there. They've let us use their field just to the south of the Emergency Management building to set up. And that's out at 3962 Archer Parkway, which is right across the street, basically, from what will be the Laramie County Fairgrounds.
Right. Okay.
New complex.
Yeah, so you just take the Archer exit 370. Don't go clear around the roundabout. Just kind of keep going south.
Yeah,
right?
go straight through the roundabout.
Straight through the roundabout, and just past those buildings. I think that's something, Tom, that a lot of people don't realize, that the Field Day exercise, I know you're going to have several different radios out there and lots of different operators, but you can take your radio, throw a wire up in a tree,
right,
hook it, run it off your car battery, and you're in business.
Yeah,
pretty
absolutely. Much. And that's, that one of the big thrusts of amateur radio is the fact that you don't need the internet. You don't need to be hooked up to Wi-Fi to talk across the country or around the world, basically. A lot of people get into the hobby just because they're interested in communications, they're interested in electronics, or they like to go portable and go out in the field. There's several different facets of amateur radio that bring people into the hobby. And I know from my point of view, I like working the guys that go out and do the what they call the summits on the air, where in this part of the country it's a pretty neat deal. SOTA, Summits on the Air. You can Google that. And what it is a organization of guys that get together and they go up and they go up like to Mount Evans, and they go up on the peak of Mount Evans, or some of these big high peaks around here, and they get on with portable radios, 5-watt handheld units. I've talked to a station from my house that was sitting on Mount Evans on a rock up there, and he was using 5 watts.
Sure.
And a handheld. What that demonstrates is if you get lost in the mountains and you don't know where you're at, and you have this capability with you, you can actually call out, and there's a high probability somebody's going to hear you.
Right.
So, but it's a neat deal for them to go up. They take portable antennas, string them up, in the bushes or trees or whatever,
Sure.
and they can get on the high frequency bands, which goes all the way across the country, and talk on very low power.
Explain how that, just for somebody who may not know, you got 5 watts and you're on a high peak.
Right.
And now all of a sudden you're able to talk to somebody 1,000 miles away from you. What's the propagation? What happens there as far as radio propagation?
Well, what it is the different frequencies that we have assigned to us are in
which are licensed frequencies,
licensed
from the
FCC frequencies. Yeah. Right. We get those when you get your license. You have certain frequencies you're authorized to use. So you get up on the mountaintop and you deploy, like, say, a wire antenna up in the tree, a dipole or an inverted V, and use it on the frequency that goes continental, across the country, say 20 meters or 40 meters or whatever. And you can use 5 watts because you're already at 14,000 feet.
Right.
So you've got a clear view of the U.S. from wherever. So the propagation goes up, hits the ionosphere, comes back down, maybe in New York.
Right.
So you're talking to somebody that's called skip. Yeah, and you're talking, and 5 watts will get you across the country, and 5 watts will get you, like, talking to New Zealand, Australia, those countries as well. In Europe.
Sure.
You can use long distance skip to do that when the propagation is in. Propagation's a big word, and but it's the technology.
Sure, and that's some of the things as you progress in your licensing, and there's 3 different levels of licensing.
Correct.
Those are things you learn about propagation, the layers of the Earth's atmosphere, how it affects radio propagation,
right,
and sunspots, and you name it. There's a lot of different things that affect that, right?
Yeah, there is. And you go through that when you get your license, when you get the manuals that you learn from to get your license. It goes through all that. Mm-hmm. Through all that technology, it gives you some electronics training as well. Right. And it's a really neat hobby.
Now, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm an operator. I'm not an electrical guy.
Well,
I mean, that's how it is around here too. But one thing, the other thing, people may not realize that ham radio is like any hobby. They have ways of relieving you of your money. There's lots of cool things to buy. You can spend as much money as you want on antennas and radios and all that sort of thing. But the nice thing about it is, you can get your license, get on the air for very little money, really.
Absolutely. And that's the big thing these days, because a lot of people want to do that low power thing like we were talking about.
Right.
And that equipment does not cost very much at all. You can, for a couple $100,
right,
buy a whole radio and antenna kit that you can take to the field with a gel cell battery in your backpack, and you can get on the air.
QRP.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people get in to do that.
Low power. Yeah, 5 watts. Yeah. QRP means low power, and a lot of people do that. They get on. We just had our Rocky Mountain Radio Convention in Cody over Memorial Day weekend. our main thrust was get outside. That was our theme. And a lot of the prizes that we gave away were all low-power kits.
Sure.
And low-power prizes. And people love those kits. They can go home, they can put them together relatively easily, and they can take them out in the field and use them. So, yeah, you don't have to have a lot of money to get in the hobby. You can spend as much as you want. You can spend tens of thousands of dollars or, on big antennas and all that. But if you just want to get on the air, you can do it relatively cheap.
Yeah. We're talking with Tom Ritter of the Cheyenne Amateur Radio Club. Field Day coming up this weekend. Starts Saturday at noon out at the Archer Parkway or Archer Complex. Thank you. I had a brain cramp there. The Archer Complex, and will run 24 hours. We're going to talk more about that, but we need to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more with Tom Ritter from the Cheyenne Amateur Radio Club coming right up. And welcome back to Cheyenne Today on 97.5 FM, 1240 AM KFBC. I'm JD Harris, and in studio with us today we have Tom Ritter, who's, he's the guy that the club goes to kind of let people know what's going on with the club. You were volunteered for that, correct?
Yeah, I was pretty much volunteered, but I did volunteer for the position because I like talking to people, and it's people like you, JD, that really help us out.
Well, we're glad to do it. It's a fun hobby. One thing we wanted to talk about, touch on a little bit more on Field Day coming up this weekend, is the fact that you guys are going to be set up just south of the Laramie County Emergency Management Building there, which is go right through the roundabout at the Archer Complex. Anybody, if you want to just come out and look around and see what's going on, you're more than welcome to do this. It's free.
Absolutely.
And everybody is willing to talk about ham radio, trust me.
Right.
But if you would also like to get on the air, there's a station you're going to have set up for that purpose.
Right.
If somebody wants to just give it a shot, turn them loose.
Sure, absolutely. We're going to have what we call a Get on the Air station, and that's going to be available for people who just want to come out and experience what amateur radio is all about. Mm-hmm. They can come out, sit down. We'll have a licensed operator at that station to help them out, kind of, tutor them on what to say and when to say it. On the air. It's going to be set up where hopefully we'll get some folks to come out and look at the station, get interested in amateur radio and that type of thing. That's the main thrust. Mm-hmm. But we'll walk you through what you need to say, how to make a contact, kind of give you a first-hand look at live on the air amateur radio, which is a lot of fun. We had kids come out last year that just had a blast. Sure. They got on there, and we had one youngster that got on the air, and he made I don't know how many contacts. He really got it,
Sure.
and it's not hard. It's very simple. And he didn't want to get off the mic. He was ready to go. I mean, I think he was on there for like 15 or 20 minutes.
Sure.
And, he got a pin.
Yeah.
We gave him a ARRL pin for
Sure.
getting on the air. We have little pins, and we have a lot of brochures that we can give you, too, to explain a little bit about amateur radio and what it's all about.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention, too, Tom, is that think of amateur radio, there is, and you get this training and this understanding through licensing, but there is radio protocol. This isn't your trucker's radio.
Right, no.
There's procedures, there's respect, there's hopefully, there's ways to go about operating a station.
Yeah, amateur radio creed of operation, I guess, is what we call it. It's pretty much unique to any other communication hobby. It's just like it's not as stringent as your public service networks are, the cops and the fire and all that. But we do hold to protocol.
Yeah.
Unlike CB or whatever, there's procedures. I guess you would call them. Yeah.
Standards and ethics.
And, yeah.
So there's training involved, and there's a proper way to go about it, and it can be a lot of fun. You can sit down on your radio on HF frequencies calling CQ, and the next thing you know, 3 hours has gone by.
That's right, absolutely. And and that's what the Get on the Air station's all about.
Sure.
I mean, we'll show you that there are some procedures that we go through, and they're very simple.
Yeah.
But they're effective. That's the main thing.
Right, and it's all, again, about emergency preparedness. And one of the things that people may not realize is that every day there are nets, national nets that happen that you can check into. And the ham radio community is all about public service. If you need, there's such thing as a telegram you can get to somebody. I mean, through these nets, you can send traffic. I mean, it's voice traffic, and somebody will copy that net or copy that traffic, get it to the person that it's designed to go to.
Right, correct.
And that happens every day, and that's, again, part of that preparedness thing.
Right. Every day there's a network on. And
several of them, actually.
Several networks on, and across the country, every state, has their own network. If the balloon were to go up and we had some sort of a national emergency, we could activate those networks because people already know what frequencies they're on, where to go to, how to gather. That's why we practice that. And so we can come up on the air at a moment's notice and say, we're going to be on 75 meters on our net frequency. We need all the ARIES and RACIES, which is another couple groups that are amateur radio emergency services, is one group that helps out emergency management, public service, fire, police. And the RACIES group, which is a more national, they help out with Homeland Security and FEMA and that type of thing. But we can go on the air at a moment's notice and get cross information from these government agencies, and actually they utilize the amateur radio network to get some of that information passed.
Sure.
Some of the, the unclass type of traffic across.
Right.
So if we had to talk to, send a message over to Washington or send a message to Baltimore or something like that, we could get on their network on HF, that transcontinental frequency, and talk to them.
Sure.
So it's all about emergency preparedness and helping out, public service when we need to.
Right. That you see the Ham Radio Club, the Shiloh Amateur Radio Club, at all kinds of events locally.
Correct.
I know that Frontier Days, you're very visible at that, at those for parade days,
parades,
and otherwise. But parades is where you're probably most visible.
Right. We're on the streets helping out emergency management, talking to the van. And if there's an issue, somebody gets sick, a horse goes crazy, we can call that in or whatever.
Right. And a lot of these bike rides and these different walks and that sort of thing, you're there for.
A lot of them. Most of them that come up in town, they will call us and request radio support. So we'll get a bunch of amateurs together that will be at the different checkpoints or whatever. But yeah, we do tons of public service like that.
Right. It's a good hobby. It's a good, clean hobby. It's a lot of fun, and there's lots to learn, but it's fun to learn. And it doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 15 or 85. Nope. It does not matter.
And we're looking for those younger hams to come on board that are enthusiastic about electronics.
Yeah.
They're enthusiastic about the digital world, which is huge. We're getting more digital modes of operation into the communication fields now.
Yeah.
And these kids are grabbing that up. They want to do that digital stuff. They want to be able to get on a radio with a attachment onto it so they can go talk digital because they like the digital stuff. They can program it. Yeah. They can do the computer stuff,
Right.
And so we're looking for the younger folks to get involved as well.
Right. Well, there's you can always search the website. It's shywy.org.
Yeah, shywyarc.net.
Oh, is that right?
Absolutely.
I totally
you were close. You were really close. I give you 50% on that.
Well, okay, it saved my favorites, so I just click on that. But anyway.
Yeah, shywyarc.net.
Okay.
And you can go on that. We also have a Facebook page that a lot of information is passed out on. I kind of maintain that. If you go on there and you look at the Facebook page and you look at the website, you'll find out when the classes are. Also, information about our events that we have coming up, and points of contact.
Right. Okay, yeah. Very good. Well, before we let you go here, Tom, we want to do one more thing, and that's talk about Governor Meade yesterday made a proclamation as far as amateur radio is concerned. What was that all about?
Yeah, Governor Meade was kind enough last year to do this for us as well. We did it again this year. He signed a proclamation proclaiming the week of the 19th through the 25th of June as Amateur Radio Week in the state of Wyoming. Pretty much what that does is that brings light to the amateur radio hobby in the state of Wyoming. Several other states have had either their governors or their mayors or maybe townships had a mayor sign proclamations stating that this is Amateur Radio Week. It's a big week for amateur radio. With Field Day coming up, it's a national, across the U.S. event. So that's why we, proposed that to the governor, and he thought it was a great idea. So
Sure.
He signed it for us, and we're real happy about that.
Sounds great. Okay, well, it's Field Day this weekend. If you're at all interested in ham radio, amateur radio, and if you'd like to find out more about it, you're welcome to run out to the fairgrounds out at Archer, and it'll be set up just south of the main building there.
Right, correct.
Starts at noon, although you'll be there earlier, so...
Right, we're going to set up at 8 o'clock. So
Yeah,
if anybody's got a strong back, wants to lug batteries and stuff like that, we'd be happy to have you out.
right? Okay, and the younger the better.
That's right, absolutely.
Yeah.
We like those young guys.
So Field Day this weekend officially goes on the air at noon, runs for 24 hours. A lot of fun, and you can find out everything you ever wanted to know and probably some things you didn't about ham radio.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Tom, thanks a million. It's good to see you.
All right, good to see you too, JD. Thanks.
You bet. Tom Ritter this morning from the Cheyenne Amateur Radio Club. Field Day this weekend, and you stay with us. More to come on Cheyenne Today in just a moment.